Welcome everybody here, Brady from BGWX. We're here back for another tropical storm Melissa breakdown, but likely this time tomorrow we'll be looking at Hurricane Melissa instead, unfortunately. So, without further ado, let's get started. First, let me say, I can't believe some of the discourse that I had to deal with. I can't believe I even tried to attempting to tap into it. It's more dumb on my part. Thinking I could talk to the internet rationally. But yeah, mind baffling that that kind of post for when the way it did, and how so many people viewed it, the way they did, shocking, shocking. So I just had to end up deleting my tweets because I can't deal with people calling me F-bombs and so on and whatever. And again, it wasn't my tweet that was doing anything, which makes it even more surprising. But so that's, if you wanted any saying about that, that's all I'll leave it at. It does not do anybody any. It's a disservice to the people that actually want information. So let's get into that. So, Melissa is currently a 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm, intensifying around 993, 994 millibars, I believe, right about now. It is recon finding. It was earlier today or last night. It was around more north of 17 degrees, and I believe we had a center reformation to the south, or it just became better vertically aligned, and it's still a bit disorganized. Take a look under the hood here. Earth Null can help you show, and you can still see it's still struggling a little bit under the hood. I do believe, even though it's better organized, but it still is just because it's better doesn't mean it's still all that great. So I think tomorrow's the day when we see some actual decent intensification, some steady intensification, about 15-20 miles per hour, over about a 24-hour period. I think something about that we saw. So some steady intensification, and I think we're going to be well on our way to rapid intensification, maybe as early as tomorrow night. Because take a look here at what's going on. You can see the pieces starting to move into each other, and at this point, let's take a screenshot here. You can start to see our upper level jet here to the north as it's going to move over, and Melissa is going to slide here just right under it. Maybe that didn't, there we go. It's going to slide right under it, and it's going to be perfectly placed under this upper level anticyclone that's developing. That's going to allow significant intensification. And that's why, again, Jamaica needs to be on guard here. I don't know why there is so much back and forth. I'm seeing online. All I know is if you live in Jamaica, you need to take this seriously. I don't know what other way to say it. No, this is not a joke. Nobody's joking with you, no matter if you want to view it that way or not. Nobody's joking with you about the seriousness of the situation that this could potentially be. You can view it that way if you want. I promise you, there are very few people that are actually, and some of the ones you think are not. Just don't be so defensive. Okay, this is a serious situation, and you are gonna be at best at thought when you are calm. Okay, so this is a serious situation that is gonna have the potential to produce a lot of flooding and rainfall. We're seeing still to this point the edge of this big upper level system here to the north, this a large system. You can see the swirl there on satellite, and that moisture flow is causing days and days on end of rain into Hispaniola and Cuba. So that is a concern, obviously, but the slow movement of this storm is what's really going to be the concern here. We are looking at 200 millibars currently in the atmosphere. If you are curious, for those that are, just meaning we're looking high up in the atmosphere. That's all. And so the concern here is going to be the prolonged rainfall for days, along with the potential for significant storm surge, and potentially how close to the shore will define how strong the winds are. Now, in terms of exact impacts for Jamaica, here's what could be a good thing. Like I said, we mentioned the center is more around 16 degrees north right now, closer to somewhere around there. Somewhere it's somewhere around there. And last night I believe it was 17 or 17 and a half, somewhere closer to that is what they believed to be low level center. It was kind of all over the place. But we had convection blow up and burst, I believe, this morning, and we saw it or early this afternoon, and we must have had a center reformation, I do believe, or just the better alignment towards that area of convection, at least at a minimum. So when we're looking at this system right now, I think I still lean towards the Western solutions. And for me, in my opinion, that should give at least some hope for Jamaica that this doesn't just ride along just off the coast and the eye wall is slamming in. Now, that is possible. That is a very possible on the table scenario. So that is something we need to watch very, very closely, because if that's the case, we're talking about category 4 or 5 winds continuously, potentially for days, slamming the coastline. And that would be in a horrific situation. Just look at the Bahamas and Dorian, for example, Grand Bahama Island. Devastating situation that was. This has the potential to be the strongest storm in the season here. The environment supports it. Again, like we're saying, take a look here at the upper level atmosphere, upper air wind. We'll go 200 and take a look. This is only an increasing favorable environment. Notice, soon as that system way to the north continues to get out of the way, I mean, the upper level divergence that we're going to see, take a look at that. Just, I mean, that's about right under the upper level anticyclone. I mean, this thing is going to be probably, I'm assuming there probably is a shot for an eye wall replacement cycle, if not 2, during this time frame. But take a look at that. Right under the upper level anticyclone, the ULAC we call it, and look at the upper level divergence here. Perfectly placed. Again, we talk about this in each video. Imagine there's a 3D column. What this venting does, so if we go back to 2D for a second, view it, and we look at the map, what this venting does around the system is, now we go back to 3D. Imagine it as this is where the storm is starting from, but the upper level pattern can define how well the top of the hurricane, right? It's a 3D column. Imagine the hurricane can vent itself, and the better it can vent itself at the top of the system, better ventilation there is, meaning the quicker this storm will be able to intensify, the faster this will be able to spin its top. So when you have that going for it, and you have at the surface here very warm sea surface temperatures to help, ignite the convection, and help, rotate those and help get continuous rotating thunderstorms around the low level center. That is, and then as that really it starts to become around the center itself, as it becomes better aligned, like we were talking about. So the better aligned it is, the better we'll be able to intensify. And as the environment allows, the environment can allow this to become better aligned at the center and also intensify faster. So they go hand in hand together. So that is what we're watching here with the upper level environment. It's just going to be so favorable. The upper level, the upper level flow here, and then it will become a bit less favorable, probably start dealing with some wind shear. And we really have to watch whether or not this storm is able to either just get pushed off, or can this at least semi-pinwheel where it gets pushed and then brought north, to somewhere like Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. That would be something to watch. Or, or this is not, like, if this does get pushed off, are there indirect impacts for the U.S. as well? Or does this get pulled in all the way? It's not the most likely scenario at this point, I would say. But it's given the upper level environment volatility, meaning you see the flow here in the upper level pattern, there's still a lot of volatility, meaning a lot of change can happen, 5, 6, 7 days out when we're looking at this. So I would keep a close eye on how things play out with that, just in case. But going back to, the short-term environment, we have to see how close this is. Now, the tea leaves are really usually, when you have that faster pace, things can reveal themselves a little bit better. I'm still going to lean with something like the Euro AI personally. Now, the OZ run that comes out in a couple hours, that may show it, and it's showing it, not even getting past the western part of Jamaica, and that's certainly possible. If the storm becoming so well stacked so early, meaning the higher up it gets in the atmosphere, allows it to get pushed further to the north and east quicker. If it does able to feel the influence of the upper level pattern soon enough, that could play a part. But I'm going to go ahead and, you know what, I'm just going to go, I could be wrong, but I'm just going to go with my forecast. And people in Jamaica will like to hear this. Well, here's the reality is, it seems like pretty likely that there are going to be major direct impacts. There's no way to sugarcoat that. There are going to be major direct impacts, potentially catastrophic impacts in Jamaica. But the difference between catastrophic and a humanitarian crisis, there is absolutely a difference. There is absolutely a difference. What happened on Puerto Rico with Maria, that was a humanitarian crisis. Same thing with Grand Bahama Island and Dorian. We're trying to prevent. I can't do anything to prevent it, but we're trying to watch closely and try to hope that this doesn't happen. Because if it comes close and then rides and then comes back, it's double whammy, and that's not what we want. What we do want, though, is this thing to kind of meander off enough, and then hopefully either avoid a direct strike. That would be even better, for at least the eastern part of the island, likely. But it seems at this point, some sort of landfall in Jamaica is becoming increasing likely at some point. But the question is, how far west can we get? I think this thing has a shot. I'm going to go off on a limb here. I think it has a shot to get out here. I really do. I'm not going to lean towards the eastern solution right away. That I'm not. I know that's closer to where the National Hurricane Center adjusted their cone, but I'm going to lean towards the system being able to work its way a little bit further west and hopefully potentially dip. I'm not just wish casting it, so in hopes. I could be wrong, but this is where I'm going to lead. This is my job as a forecaster, or at least I try to hold myself accountable to be able to do the best I can to forecast and at least put something out there, so that if it's not 100% correct, I can look at why I did it and at least learn from it and continue to add on. It doesn't matter the age you are. As a forecaster, you always have an opportunity to get better. And so when I look at this here, I think there's an opportunity for this to slide out here. I think there's an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying into Nicaragua or anything, but I do believe there's an opportunity for this thing to maybe slide just enough southwest to potentially avoid an early strike with Jamaica. But here would be the downside to that. If we do see that, let's look at a reminder of the upper level environment. If we were to see that, look at the upper level environment that it sits in. So this would be something slightly closer to the Euro AI. Look at the upper level environment. I mean, there's no doubt about that. This thing is going to be if it gets to here, this thing is going to be a Category 5 hurricane almost certainly. The upper level environment is too favorable now. If we see a land interaction earlier on, that may prevent that. Maybe we only get to Cat 4 status, so to say. And even then, it could still get to Cat 5 status. That's how volatile. That's not volatile is the right word. That's how fantastic this environment. And I don't mean fantastic in a good way. I mean it in a meteorological way. How fantastic for the storm, its environment, this is going to be. And so that is there's really no sugarcoating it. There is a significant concern for extreme flash flooding, extreme wind, and extreme storm surge. With this system, there is an increasing chance of catastrophic impacts, but I do not want to lock it in the way some people are at this point, because it's not a guarantee. And then when we do that and it doesn't exactly happen 100%, people in Jamaica are going to be like, man, what are you talking about? This is I don't want that. I want accountability as a forecaster to be able. It's ironic that word comes up. I swear it was no pun intended. there's an accountability as a forecaster that I have to do my best to highlight the scenarios and what's most realistic, and not just focus on what the worst case scenario would be. I can't do that. So we'll have to keep an eye on how things play out. The worst case scenario, though, it is unfortunately very much a possible scenario where this thing meanders enough, close enough to Jamaica, maybe slips out for a second, and then boom, strikes. And then after that, Cuba is very much in play here. This is where we're watching for Cuba right now. This is absolutely still a major concern because there's an opportunity for a major hurricane strike. And then after Cuba, the Bahamas are very much in play to see. I would say today we took a step in the right direction to prevent any significant major impacts for South Florida, which is good news. I wouldn't 100% rule it out quite yet, but I do not think, just because out of some extreme uncertainty with how the trough could potentially drop in and develop at 500 millibars, that's the only way I would see the potential for significant major Florida impacts. Otherwise, the focus will be more on the Bahamas in terms of the same latitude as South Florida. That is definitely a major concern because after this hurricane has to go somewhere, and this will be moving at a faster pace at this point. It's not going to sit over, for, over a day over Cuba. It's going to move quickly, even though the mountainous terrain some of the mountainous terrain will break it up a little bit. So there is a significant concern for a multiple land strikes of a major hurricane. And anytime we're talking about that, just in reality, this could be the worst, impact storm of the season. In fact, it likely almost already is. This is going to be a devastating storm, likely for many, and unfortunately, the loss of life. It just always seems to happen with these systems. So, send whatever it means, thoughts and prayers. We can try to send those to those that are being affected. In terms of future track, we'll just provide a quick few thoughts. We already did kind of. The question becomes, how well wrapped up does the system become? And that is really what we ultimately don't know. Actually, let's just check on the GFS. We can do that while this happened here. Let's see if it's adjusting. It's trying. Let's see, 18Z. No, not from 18Z. Or 12Z for that matter. It's east of us. So the GFS swing and a miss probably for this system. Just too late how it's catching. You can still see the vorticity. It's trying to latch on to the north there. That's just likely not going to happen. Really having trouble. GFS likes to catch on to vorticity whenever it can and spin with it. That's why you see all those late season hurricane hits, from the Central American gyres, or the CAGs, we like to call them. So GFS will struggle with this system. Free Canadian. Oh, Canadian's not out yet. So yeah, Euro's kind of showing what would be a worst case scenario where this thing just meanders for days and offshore too. And then eventually, maybe the trough picks it up, maybe it doesn't. Well, we'll go to 12Z. See, and this is what hopefully we can get is it stalls just enough offshore. That's the goal. Something more Euro AI like currently. 12Z Euro. But then we have to watch is that orientation there. That's a little dangerous. It's a little dangerous. It's a little too close for comfort. To see that now likely gets pushed out here, which it did. But at the same time, somewhere like Nova Scotia, Newfoundland then gets some pretty significant impacts. So the impacts after it moves through the Bahamas are not over yet. And in fact, I'd say likely there's at least indirect impacts regardless with the Halloween system. The moisture flow Melissa probably gets caught up in it, probably an increase for rainfall potential and gusty winds regardless. So that is kind of, we have to watch for. Again, watch for Atlantic ridging to be underestimated. We'll see if that plays a part. And again, we talked about it in depth last night, so go back to that video if you want to look at the potential for U.S. any indirect impacts at a minimum for the U.S., or if you do want to see how there would be a doomsday scenario, you can go. I don't want to say doomsday. That's just I'm tired, and that's what came to first in my head. So if you do want to see what would be more of a worst impact scenario for the U.S., we covered that there in the pinwheel, but basically it's just if this thing gets captured up in the trough. That's what we will have to keep an eye on and watch for. If the trough does able to bring it in and pull it in, versus push it out and then pull it in. That's versus here in the euro. That's what you see. You see it push it out. You see it interact, but it gets pushed out, and then eventually gets kind of pulled. It really never gets truly pulled in, to be honest. On this scenario, high pressure kind of prevents that well enough on the system, as you can see, to be honest. But I also don't like how strong that high pressure is, which means it's going to be tough for Melissa to work its way just completely through it. So we'll see if the Melissa does want to interact more with the trough itself. So that's something, just looking at the 500 millibar setup, that would have to be watched, is how quickly do we see ridging build back in over the Atlantic. So yeah, so I think we covered everything pretty well in depth. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate anybody that really just wants the weather stuff, and unfortunately had to see me try to defend some comments. I try to stay out of that as best as I can, just because I have no interest really in it. But I felt bad for the person who was getting attacked in this case, and so I tried unsuccessfully to convey